welcome to Sunmelon Architecture. My name is Mindy Bryce. This is my first YouTube channel, my first YouTube video, and I've been holding on for a while to start YouTube, but today is the day that I started, and this is just a introduction video or introduction sit down and talk with me. I am 25 years old. I'm originally from New York City, Queens. Recent graduate from the University at Buffalo School of Architecture and Planning. Literally like my first summer not as a student, I guess you can say. I guess I'll talk a little bit about like what I'm working on and a couple of other things like my plans on YouTube, kind of the content you're gonna find on my channel. And then I'll briefly talk about 3 things to think about when you're picking architecture as a major. So currently, like I said before, I just recently graduated from the Master's Architecture program here at University at Buffalo. Due to COVID, I don't know if people say that a lot, but yeah, due to COVID, not to get a chance to complete my full master's program all in the spring. So I extended a little bit out towards the summer program. So I'm technically still in school. I'm still a student. First year at UB as a graduate student. Also did my undergraduate at UB. But did my first year at UB, and then my second year at UB, I decided to take on a thesis. And COVID, I didn't get a chance, or I would say I didn't have enough time to complete all my thesis requirements to be able to graduate fully in May as a graduate student. So I'm technically still enrolled in school as a graduate student, but I graduated. I will graduate. I don't know, same thing. But I'm working on my thesis book still. So once that's submitted, I'm officially free and out. Working on my thesis book, I am currently applying to jobs in the field of architecture. So I'm looking at a couple of firms that I'm interested in working in the city. So I will be moving back to New York City in Queens in like a week and a half actually, and applying to jobs. I'm also have been applying to a few fellowships, and yeah, that's kind of happening right now. It's kind of like where my life is at and what I'll be doing. YouTube channel, my plan is to mainly focus on my journey as an architecture student, or as a minority in the architecture program at the University at Buffalo. Focusing on both my undergraduate and graduate career, talking a little bit about some of the obstacles I may have faced in both undergraduate and graduate, some of the steps I took to get to where I am today, and just like my experience, and just like to be here for other students of color who are kind of looking for someone, or kind of looking for tips and stuff when applying to architecture school and stuff like that. So I didn't really have a page like that when I was an undergraduate or a graduate student. I was one of the only Black women in my graduating class, meaning not in the whole program, but meaning in my year. When we graduated under my year, I was the only Black student in the program. So that was exciting and fun and very interesting, and also very challenging. But yeah, we'll talk about that in another vlog. So I guess let's get started. So on top of focusing on my undergraduate and graduate career in my channel, I also will be talking a lot about my work search and how I am applying to jobs, and how I'm going about applying to jobs, and working on my portfolio and working on my resume, which I actually finished yesterday, which I had to like update it with a lot of new things that I had to put in it, but I finished that yesterday. So I will be sure to have a video about how I kind of created my resume and some of the things I put on there and some of the things I focused on. And then on top of my work search, my channel will also be focusing a lot on a PhD process. So like I said, I just graduated as a graduate student. I am taking a year off to gain some experience in the field, but I will be applying to doctorate program for planning this winter, but to start in fall 2021. So I'll be applying to different schools, and I will be posting a lot of videos about the process and that and how that kind of feels. And also just it'll be a learning experience for both me and my soon-to-be followers on how to take my architecture education and kind of use it to its full advantage, if I would say. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about 3 things to think about when picking architecture as your major. So I'll give a little backstory on how I chose architecture as my major. Not a very traditional story, but just like it was kind of like on a whims, I think that's the word, I guess. But so we were kind of so high school, let's back it up. 2013 high school, I was sitting in the living room with my god sister Talia and my godmother, and we were talking about my career and what I was basically looking at, some of my career choices. So when I was younger, like any traditional child, I guess, I wanted to be a pediatrician, but that died out real quick. And then so I went from wanting to be a pediatrician to wanting to be a teacher. So I wanted to go to school for education. I wanted to go to school to teach students art. But I guess it's kind of stigma that a lot of people had, I guess, in my family or like in general, is that teachers didn't make a lot of money. People enjoyed it, but they typically did not make a lot of money. And I'm a Capricorn, and I love money. I love money so much. And so while I do want to do what I'm passionate, what I'm passionate about, I did still want to make money. So teaching kind of flew out of the window, and I was like, I don't want to be a teacher because so I don't want to be a teacher. I want money, and I don't think I love kids that much to make that little money. So yeah, so we were talking, and I wouldn't say I was the best math student in high school. I was actually pretty bad. I took my algebra exam like 3 times, my algebra regents like 3 times. So I was really bad at math, but they were like, you love art, you love like traveling, you love looking at things, why not do architecture? And I was like, what's architecture? I knew what architecture was, but like I didn't really know what it was. So then we did some research, and I was like, yeah, why not? Like, these people seem like they make a lot of money. Like, it seems fun. I like to draw. Like, I would love to draw buildings and stuff like that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's kick it. Let me apply to all these architecture schools. So I applied to a ton of architecture schools, and I applied to, like typical high school students, I applied to Reach, Safety, and Target schools. And UB was one of my target schools. Yes, UB was one of my target schools, and City College was one of my safety schools. So I ended up getting a denial letter from UB, and I didn't get into UB. And so I went to Safe Route, and I stayed at I got accepted to a couple other programs, like at Morgan and a couple of other schools, but I then decided to stay at City College in Brooklyn. And I went to City College in Brooklyn for a year and realized that I love architecture and decided to try UB again and transfer. So I reapplied to UB, and I got in second time, and I transferred to UB. So that's like my little backstory about picking architecture as my major. One thing also about when I transferred and why I transferred, while City College was a great school, I transferred mostly because I hated the commute. I hated the commute. I did not like getting on a train from Queens to Brooklyn every morning and then getting back at night every night. So that was just like not it for me. Second reason I switched is because City College was not accredited. I was not accredited when I was going there. I'm not sure if it's accredited now, but it wasn't when I was going there. And I was like, there's no way I am going to do this architecture thing and not go to accredited school. So I was like, nah, that's a dub. That's completely out of the story. Like, no, it's not happening. And then a couple other stuff happened. I wasn't doing too well in some classes at City Tech. And yeah, they had a homegirl probation for a while. So City Tech was just not the right fit for me. And transferring was honestly one of the greatest decisions in my life. Anyway, I'm babbling about how I picked my architecture, my major, but I feel like that was very important. I feel like I should tell you guys about my experience and why I chose architecture as my major. And then here are my 3 tips about things you should think about when picking architecture as a major. And some tips I did consider from my story. You'll remember I considered some of these when I was picking architecture as my major. But there are also a lot of things that I didn't take into consideration, which I wish someone would have told me, like, hey, remember when you're applying to architecture school, these are some things that you can keep in mind. So my first thing is architecture the right fit for you? So as you guys remembered, I said I knew nothing about architecture, didn't really understand what it was, and kind of just like jumped in blind and kind of just like went for it and was just like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna try it and see if it works. And it worked. So we're happy about that. So things to think about. So is architecture the right fit for you? You have to be a critical thinker. I believe personally, these are all my opinions, so like no judgment free zone. Don't judge me for some of the tips I have or some of the opinions I have on is architecture the right major for you. This is all from my experience also, but I feel like you have to be a critical thinker when you're an architecture major, like to be able to think critically, to be able to think on your feet, to be able to kind of envision the world for the future, like, and to just be able to be like open-minded about critical thinking. Like, it's just, I think it's very important and a very good skill to have as an architecture student starting in the program. You also have to be a people person. Like, as a Capricorn, I would say I'm a bit of an introvert, and I don't really like to talk to people. A lot of architecture students are actually introverts, but you have to know when to turn it on and off. Like, you have to be a people person. You know, you have to get to know your faculty, get to know the students in your major, get to know people who are not in your major that may benefit you in the future, and just like being able to have intense conversations with people and being able to have intelligent conversations with both of your fellow classmates and the faculty who are teaching you. And it's just like very important to be open to meeting people, to create opportunities for yourself within the program, especially as a student of color. And my YouTube channel will focus mostly on the experience of a minority student, because I am obviously a minority, and just kind of like putting yourself out there so other people can notice, and, you know, like filling up space, like to be able to fill up space in a lot of these areas where there are not a lot of minority students. So like being a people person and being able to like introduce yourself to other people who you may feel like have benefit in your life, or being able to introduce yourself so just people know your name out there. So like to just the next thing is to have a good eye. So a nice building is a nice building, like, yes, but to be able to have a good eye for different types of designs, and just the eye for well built and like well established spaces. The next thing is to be artistic. Once again, this is my opinion. I feel like it's really for people who are artistic, like people who are interested in I would say music and art and drawings and paintings and like crazy abnormal things. Like a lot of my friends and a lot of people I've worked with, faculty I've worked with, they're super artistic and different types of things, and that allows them to be more vocal and more open in a lot of their designs and stuff. So that's a super important thing to be artistic. The next thing is time management. Oh my gosh, time management to me. Is architecture the right fit for you? Well, if you're gonna go to undergraduate school, you need to have great time management. That's super, 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 super important. Like, you be able to plan things and be able to time management so that you're still enjoying your college experience, and your major and your life all at once. And like, I did not go into architecture really having great time management. I would say I was a pretty laid back high school student. I didn't really do much. I kind of just like went to school and just got good grades. Didn't really work hard for them, I guess you could say. But yeah, time management is super important. And then the last and final thing for the first tip is to be a hard worker. You have to work hard. You have to really want it. Like, you know, especially as a minority student and especially as a minority woman in a program, like, you will have hard days and you will have hard nights and hard mornings and sad afternoons. So if you're working hard and you feel like you're putting in the work for it, like, you will get what you put in. So as long as you're a hard worker and you're moving forward throughout the program and throughout your career, I don't have a career in architecture yet, but it's going to happen soon. If you're putting in the hard work and you're working hard for what you want, everything will pay off at the end. Like, it definitely will. Okay. Second tip for things you should think about when picking architecture as a major is picking a school. Yes. Don't do what some Mendy did and just kind of just like pick schools that had architecture in it. But picking a school. So picking a school that's accredited. So school that will eventually lead you to licensure. There are actually a large number of schools, SUNY schools, and CUNY schools that are not accredited for architecture. UB being one of the very little amount that are. A lot of people do apply to UB mostly because it's an accredited program. So making sure your program is accredited. I will have another video on different schools that are accredited for architecture, but that's something I would have to do some research in, because obviously I haven't applied to architecture undergrad school in 7 years. I already did it, so I don't really know who's accredited now and who's not accredited now. Rumor is City College is now accredited, so I will definitely do some of that research for you guys and post a video up about different options in different schools and which ones are accredited. Second, when picking a school, make sure the program is diverse in the program and in the area you're applying to. When I applied to UB, I guess I wasn't really thinking about like, will I be around Black people? Like, that didn't pop in my head at all, because at City College there was not a large community of Black people in the architecture program, but there were students who were Black or Hispanic or people of color, and that's not something I thought about when I was coming to UB. And boy, when I got to UB, I looked around and I was like, where are all the Black people? Like, what did I just get myself into? So it was me. There was another young man who was mixed. I think he was biracial, but he ended up leaving the program. And then there were a few Hispanics, and there was a large number of international students, and then everybody else was white. And when the other young black man dropped out, it was just me, and I did not have, I would say you can call it that support system of like a Black community. While I was in the architecture and planning program, our faculty, oh gosh, no. Let me make sure I'm thinking very hard about this. Yes, our faculty, no black professors, in the architecture and planning program. You know, I don't want to put UP on the spot, but like no Black professors in architecture and planning program. Oh, let me not say planning, because there was Dr. Henry Taylor and the planning program, and there were a couple other, I think like 2 other Black professors in the planning program, but in the architecture program, none, 0. There were few Black students in the 3.5-year program. There were few in the upperclassmen, but in my freshman year, it was just me. And I don't think that's something I was really thinking about when I was applying to schools. Like, oh, am I gonna be around people who look like me or who have had similar experiences than me? I was kind of just like applying. I was like, UB is cool, and I want to be as far away from home as possible. So I was like, UB is cool, let me go away from home. So yeah, think about how diverse the program is and how diverse the area is too. Because while UB did have a decent population of African American students or minority students, it was majority white and international students. So a large percentage of Asian students, a large percentage of Indian, but Black, very little. Third tip to think about when you're picking architecture as a major is the type of architecture you're interested in. So this tip, it's kind of like something you can just kind of like think about, and something you can kind of like brush on when you're looking at or when you're picking schools. Because obviously, like if you are like me or were like me, you didn't really know what type of architecture you were into. Like literally people don't know that there are different types of architecture. So like there's landscape architecture, there's urban designers, there's like people who are focusing more on like material architecture, people who are focusing more on climate change, like ecological practices, and just like different types of architecture. So that's something that you want to definitely like look into, or kind of just do like a quick Google search on like different types of architecture that are offered out there and kind of what different schools offer. Personally, I feel like UB was a great pick, because while I didn't know that there were different types of architecture when I was first applying to school, when I got to UB, I was like, whoa, what? This is what you guys do? And it was like very hands-on, where I had a chance to learn about a lot of different types of architecture. I took Greg Delaney's class, and it was an intro to architecture, and basically the class just brushed, I don't want to quote, I think it was like 130 something different architects in time or whatever, and we brushed over 130 something architects, and through that I had the chance to learn about different architects. So taking that class was super helpful, because that gave me a chance to learn about different types of architecture, which is something you want to keep in mind and something you should look into when you're picking architecture as your major, so then you pick your schools a little better. Because while some programs are like UB and offer a large variety of different type of architecture, some programs are specific and only offer like just landscape architecture. So like that's super important, because landscape architecture compared to like urban design or ecological is they're all different. Like they're all different. Where at UB you got a chance to learn about all three. So each of our studios were focused on a different type of architecture, which was super important. So I've just been listening to and watching a ton of podcasts and TED Talks about how students of color and people of color don't really know or understand what architecture is. So like if you ever hear somebody say, oh, maybe you should do architecture, I say give it a try. Like a lot of people, a lot of minority students don't really understand or know what architecture is and what it has to offer, and just opening up your door and opening up your mind to the experience and seeing if it is right for you. Because that's kind of what I did from my story. I kind of just jumped into it and hoping for the best, and I would say the best happened. Like I enjoyed my experience. I'm happy I had that talk in the living room with my godmother and godsister, and made a decision to study architecture as my major. And while I am going into a PhD program a doctorate program for planning. Has a lot of relation to architecture, and I will be getting licensed and becoming a licensed architect. So it is very important that we do open up the doors for students of color and people of color to join fields like architecture, so that there are more people like us building buildings and structures in our neighborhoods and in our spaces. Because like when you get into a room and people are building new structures in like Jamaica Avenue or in Bayside, there are a room full of white men, and we need more people of color in these spaces so that they know what we want, they understand what we need, and gentrification is not the main priority in a lot of these spaces. So if you're thinking architecture, I hope these 3 tips will help you and will allow you to be able to think about architecture as a possible major for you. And many people do go into the field and into the program and do amazing things, and you know, we just need our numbers to grow a lot more. And you know, I would say that I'm just beginning. This is just the beginning for me, where I just graduated, you know, I'm stepping my foot into the field, and I'm super excited about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed my first video for Some Melon Architecture. Thank you for watching. Bye everyone.